What is up, Sneeples? We are going to go over the warrior cards of heavy hitters. That is the warrior brutes, and the warrior guardian cards. We're going over all of them to see what cards we're going to see make impacts in the constructed meta, what cards we should be drafting, and what cards we should be avoiding, and even what cards are fun to play in UPF. So let's get into going over the warriors. Okay, so first off, one of the first spoilers of this set, Kasai. Kasai seems like she's going to have immediate impact. Her ability seems really good. You know, she still maintains where the swords are cheaper, which works definitely with Centauri Sabers. But then making it where your weapon attack has to go again by just banishing, and on top of it, creating a gold token is pretty gnarly. So I think this deck has, or this hero has the ability to get some long chains going and making, you know, sort of the sword attack become her identity, which is a very warrior type thing. So I could see Kasai, because of the go again, because of the gold and her ability, having an immediate impact, because go again is just that good that it can really just push you into the meta immediately. I do think this deck is a bit trickier than like KO that could also have an immediate impact. So I think we're going to see less at first, but as time goes on, we will probably see more and more if she withstands like the test of, you know, how good she is into the meta. Next up, we have Olympia, prize fighter. Love his look. Stoked about that we get some, you know, gladiator action here. However, you know, there was the James White interview saying that this hero didn't quite get the love that he needed and will be planned to receive love in the next set as like some sort of supplemental. So, you know, that might just be what needs to happen for him to really make a wave. I don't see him making a wave right now. However, when we look at limited, I do think Olympia has a better shot at being more impactful, or at least an easier build to draft, or whatever the case, in limited. So I think Olympia is the better warrior in limited, where Kasai is the better warrior in constructed. We'll see, that could all change, but that's where I'm currently at. Centauri Sabers, annoying sabers so to deal with. This is going to be used in constructed with Kasai just because of the ability to make attack actions like not a good thing to block with against these sabers. And so I think therefore Kasai is going to use these and feel great about it. As far as in limited, this is just your token, so you're going to have them and you're probably going to run at least one of them. But let's go over some of the other ones. We have Hot Streak, being able to get go again, but this has to be defended to get go again. So I think this is kind of a late game Kadachi sort of situation, where when you get to the point where they have to start blocking, then you can come in with this for 2 with go again. You do have to be careful though, because that's the thing. If they don't block with attack action card, and which there is a ton, but there is also a lot of non-attack action cards in this set as well. And if they block for non-attack action cards, your turn's over. I mean, that's all you do for the turn. So Hot Streak can really go cold real quick, so keep that in mind. Because of that, I do not think this will see any sort of constructed play. I think this will only be in limited, and I'm hesitant. I'm not going to draft this super high, because I do think Centauri Saber is just solid. Parry Blade. This one I would draft fairly high. Not like super high, but fairly high. Just because I don't know how often I'll need 2 weapons as a warrior, especially with how many warrior attack actions there are in this set. So having a extra block, it's almost like a shield, is pretty damn cool. Yes, it does have to block another weapon in order to have any sort of block value, but that's okay. That still is going to be block value, and it's free to block. You don't have to pay for it. So I really do like Parry Blade. I'm definitely drafting this higher than Hot Streak, and I'd probably draft this pretty high as well. I think it's just very solid. Okay. I don't think Parry Blade, despite it being able to block warrior or blocks weapon attacks, I don't think it's going to see any constructive play. Grades of Blood Spill. I think we are seeing this card. You can't draft this card, so we won't talk about limited, but I think we are going to see this card in warrior decks that work with weapons more than not. So I don't think you'll have this in Olympia or Bolton. I know Bolton sometimes works with weapons, but I think he's mostly going to try to do the Raiden build and doing the or the Centauri Saber combo, which you need the other chest piece for. Courage of Blade Hold. But Grades of Bloodspill works awesome with Dorinthia. I think it works great with Kasai. I think this card is awesome because it says weapon. It doesn't say sword. It doesn't say axe. It allows you to hit with any weapon and be able to have this ability go off. I'm all about it. I'm glad that it exists. I think this is going to see a lot of play in other warrior decks. Next up, we got the specialization equipment. As I mentioned before, I am not very high on drafting these for limited, just because only one of the 6 heroes can play with it. So unless I know I'm going to be playing that hero, I don't want this card to be in my deck, or I don't want to draft this card. But this card is pretty damn good just because it does work with Olympia fairly well. Having the attack reaction to give a weapon attack wager is pretty cool, to make it where it's like, well, you didn't block this weapon, now I get a gold token. I like that. I think that's pretty cool. And so for that, I think it's okay. There's other specialization equipment I think is better for their respective heroes, but this one's kind of in the middle, I would say. It does block for 2 and then 1 with Temper, so that is good for that. That's obviously very good. Hood of Red Sand being the Kasai specialization. Wouldn't draft this unless I know I'm Kasai. Also, I will say I don't think Olympia plays this in CC. I think you just don't even worry about attacking with your weapon as Olympia most of the time. Hood of Red Sand. This is just doing Kasai's ability, but as an attack reaction, where her ability is a once per turn action. So this can be a little sneak, and that's pretty cool. Giving your sword, draw a card instead of just getting the gold token, but you get to draw a card. That's pretty dang cool. So you do need to meet the conditions, right? You need a red, and you need a yellow, but I think that can be done. I think you can master that. It only blocks for 1 with Battle Worn, but it's Battle Worn, so it doesn't get destroyed, so you can use it later. This is a good card if you are Kasai. That being said, I don't think this will see CC play. I think you're going to be banishing enough with Kasai's ability that I don't think you need Hood of Red Sand for CC. I think you can play other helmet pieces. Alright, and then Beck and Applause. If you've seen the other videos, you'll know that I do not like these equipment. I do not like that they have to have conditions met for them to block. So I'm just not about these equipments at all. That's just all there is to it in any sort of format. Alright, Blade Fury, or Blade Flurry, I should say. Being the attack reaction to give your weapon attack +2 and your next weapon +2. You're loving this, right? If you play dual wield, or if you play Dorinthia, you're looking to swing your weapons twice, right? If you're doing dual blades, you're going to swing 2 weapons. So this being a 0 for 4, that's an attack reaction. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. You do have to have go again, so make sure that is the case, that your one weapon does have go again. Otherwise, it's just a 0 for 2. So in that case, not the greatest. I do think this is more of a Kasai card when we're looking at limited. When we're looking at constructed, I think we should see this card get played. And possibly both Dorinthia and Kasai. I kind of think that's going to be it. I don't think Bolton's going to play this card. Okay. Moving on. Shift the Tide of Battle. Giving your warrior attack that has power greater than his base go again. And then the next time opposing hero is dealt damage, create an agility token. This is an attack reaction. Because this attack reaction doesn't actually bump the attack itself, I have reservations with this. I do like that it's like a instant speed go again, and then it is like allowing every time that you deal damage to create an agility token, or the next time you deal damage to create agility. I think that's really cool, but it doesn't bump itself. So it's like, unless you played something to bump up your sword or your warrior attack, whatever the case, and then you played this, it's, yeah, I'm not huge into it, to be honest. Not for being a majestic at the very least. It is a yellow pitch, but I'm probably not going to be drafting this pretty high. And then as far as seeing playing constructed, I think it might see some fringe Dorinthia builds, but I think that would probably soon just dissipate. All right, up the ante, Olympia specialization. You know what I realized is that a lot of these specializations Shiana can play, and I kind of forgot about that with my other videos. So I'm going to try to think about Shiana here a little bit. But anyways, if you're playing Olympia, you're going to be playing 3 of these. In Constructed, for sure. In Draft, this is a specialization. So once again, I really only want this card if I know I'm going to be Olympia. But with what it is, like, should I draft this card early on? Like, there's like the Betsy specialization and the Victor specialization. I say, you know, if you see him in the first 5 pick them. You don't have to beat those heroes, but you can kind of lean towards them. Is this that same card? Can you pick this and kind of lean towards? No, I don't think it is. I do think it's a good card, but I do think like you just kind of need a good hand for you to really utilize it to its full extent. And with that in mind, I'm just not really all for it. Just not really all for it. So I really think I only want this card as far as picking it, like maybe early pack 3, if I know I'm going to be Olympia. All right. Oh, and then Shiana. I think Shiana could play this. Like, I think you might as well. It blocks for 3 as a blue pitch, and she's kind of a pretty heavy hard-hitting deck, so having blues is pretty good. I think you might as well play it as Shiana. Command Performance. Warrior action with Go Again, giving your warrior attack +3 for 1, but then also giving it where if it is defended by 1 or more attack action cards, destroy a card in their arsenal. So this is the Warriors way to be Command and Conquer. And with that, I love this card in Limited. This is like a first 5 pick. You're always going to have a warrior attack, whether it be your weapon or a bigger attack. And this just making it become a Command and Conquer is awesome. It blocks for 3. I love this card in Limited. When we look at Constructed, I do think this is going to be a play in mini attack or mini decks. I could even see Bolton playing this card. I could see Bolton, I could see Dorinthia, I could see Kasai, and if you're playing Olympia, you're probably playing this action all the same. So this card is a bomb for sure. All right, next up, Raise an Army, Kasai specialization. You know, destroying X gold is what is needed to create all these Centauri Sellswords. Now, luckily, Kasai has an ability that can create you a gold. Is this, as far as Limited goes, like in Constructed, yes, you're going to be playing this card. Absolutely. In Shiana, you're not. There's a little throw out for her. But in Constructed, you will be playing this card. This is kind of one of the ways that you can have like an alternative win condition by having a go wide board. So yes, this card's awesome. Now in Draft, because if you are playing Kasai and you have this card, that's great. But in Draft, where should you draft this? How should you treat this card? My conclusion with this is that I truly don't know quite yet. I haven't drafted yet. But what I can look at and determine right now is that it's really going to depend on how many gold I can consistently have. If I can have 2 to 3 gold out at most times in a game, I think this is a good card. Even if it just creates 2 of those Centauri Sellsword tokens, I think that's pretty good. I don't really want to play this card for anything less than 2 as far as creating those Sellswords. So that's kind of where I'm at. It just does have Go Again. I love that. So as far as drafting it in the early rounds, I think it will depend. But right now, I'm saying, yeah, go ahead and draft it. And kind of keep open, but you can kind of lean towards Kasai and kind of lean towards Warrior. But yeah, I do have a little bit of reservations because if I can't get 2 gold off on this, and I feel like I have to go extra mile just to be able to get the 2 gold, then I'm gonna be putting this down and not drafting it very high. Okay. Next up, Cut the Deck. Love that name. Being able to give the warrior attack +3, and then like being able to put a card from, being able to sink a card basically. Draw a card and sink it. I mean, it's just good. It's just classic. It's attack reaction. I think it's where you want to be. This is something like Stroke of Foresight that we've seen before, where you draw a card and put a card on top. But this one says you can put a card from your hand or arsenal on the bottom of your deck. It's slightly better. I think it's just kind of an upgrade of Stroke of Foresight. So I could see this getting played in Classic Constructed with Dorinthia. I think this is more just a Dorinthia card than anything else. Maybe Kasai plays it, but this feels more Dorinthia, particularly with Dawnblade. Maybe with the Battle Axe. I guess it could work there too. Anyhow, in Limited, I think this is just solid. This is something that I'm leaning towards if I'm Kasai. Kasai, I think you're going to do more sword swings than you are Olympia. So if I'm Kasai, or if I feel like I might be heading towards Kasai, I'll be drafting this card. Otherwise, I might just kind of stick with a different card instead. It goes either way. It works with Olympia because it does do the attack. So I guess it all works the same. It might be a little harder because Olympia, stuff costs a little bit more to attack with. Okay. Fatal Engagement being an attack reaction to give a target attack +5. This also feels more like a Kasai card. The reason is it does say attack, so it can do attack actions. But it feels more like a Kasai card because if you pitch a blue, you pay 1 to come with the Centauri Saber, and then you pay the remaining 2 to play the Fatal Engagement. It works a little bit better than if you pay 3 to come in with a big attack, and then you have to pitch another card to pay for this one, and then that becomes 4 cards right there instead of just the 2 cards. So that's why I think this is more of a sword attack pump than it is like a attack action pump. But it can be played on attack actions. I think I am just kind of middle road as far as drafting this card. This isn't anything special, or it's not bad. I'm really in the middle road here. And then as a caveat too, and that kind of sucks, but that's probably not going to be an issue when we're thinking about Limited. In Constructed, I think you're just going to run the Overpower. I think that's just better. And then it doesn't even have a caveat Overpower, so other than it has to be blocked. I don't think this sees any sort of play in Constructed. All right, Take the Upper Hand. Play only if you wagered this Chain Link. This is saying Olympia all over it. Olympia wagers all the time. So this is more of an Olympia card than it is a Kasai card. So really keep that in mind. And it is a 0 cost to give something +3. So it works better with attack actions. It can work with swords and whatnot, but it can work very well with attack actions. So this is why this is more of an Olympia card. Because you have to wager, I'm only really drafting this card if I feel like I am Olympia, and I'm going to be wagering like all the time. Okay. It won't see any constructed play unless Olympia sees constructed play. Agile Engagement. This is being the attack reactions again, costing 1 again. The 1 for 3 here, getting the agility token. I think is one of the best ones out there. I think this one I would draft higher than any other. And even in Olympia, I could just play this with a sword and feel fine. I could play it with an attack and feel fine. But this is probably the one that I am drafting as some of the highest warrior cards, because this, to me, is just awesome. The agility token is amazing. So that's really what I'm trying to get, and it's an attack reaction, which is sick. It does have a caveat. It does have to be blocked by attack action, but that condition will be met in Limited most of the time. In Constructed, I think this is also going to get played, at least at the beginning, and we'll see if it sticks around. But again, I think that agility token is just way too good to ignore. I think that's why it's going to see some play in Constructed as well. All right, Vigorous Engagement, giving the warrior attack +3 all over again. It's a 1 for 3. We're used to seeing these. This time you get in the vigor token. It's okay. Again, it's not as good as the agility, but I'll take it. As far as like in limited, I'll draft this at a fairly decent value. I'm not going to be as high as the agile engagement, but it's kind of, it's in the middle. It's middle of the pack. And then in constructed, maybe. I don't think so, but yeah, I just don't think so. I think Grains of Blood Spill is the way you're going to create bigger tokens in constructed. Okay, draw swords. This one is very, very interesting. I think you could play this in both heroes as far as Unlimited, Olympia, and Kasai. It works better if you have more blues, because if you don't have a blue in your hand, this card is pretty bad, but at least it blocks for 3, so you can always block with it. But the fact that it kind of replaces itself is really good. The fact that you can pitch a blue, get the +3, and then draw another card. Okay. I like that, right? That's pretty good. So, I think you should play this, and you should draft this if you're looking to be Warrior. I think this is good in both Warriors decks. Just kind of keep in mind that, this is really good with a blue, and it's not good if you don't have a blue. So if you don't have a blue, and this is in your hand, probably just block with it, Moving to the constructed realm. In Axe builds, this is awesome, because you are going to have blues, and this works so perfect. The fact is that you could probably give your axe +3, draw another blue, and then swing with your axe for 7. Awesome. That is awesome. So despite it saying draw swords, it's really a great axe card. As far as for like Dawnblade or like Centauri Sabers, it's okay. I don't think it's good enough. But as far as for the axe dories, yeah, this is sweet card. And it's common. Okay, Edge Ahead. Edge Ahead has it where your next warrior is getting the +3 all over again. But this time you can wager for an agility. With warriors, I think wager is pretty great mechanic because you have all these attack reactions. So you can look at your hand and be like, yeah, I got an attack reaction, I'll wager. I think that is the best. I think warriors can wager the best because of the attack reactions. So I really like this card. This one is going to be more on the higher value because I feel like I could wager and get the agility token if need be. So despite me not wanting to give my opponent an agility token, I feel like with warriors having the attack reactions, I can make sure that doesn't happen. And then, it could see constructed play. It definitely would if you're playing Olympia, but like maybe Dory, maybe even Axe Dory. Paid Tunic to play that. Not bad. Okay, engage Swiftblade. 1 for 3. Defended by attack action. This card gets Gogan, and it's an attack act, or it's an action with Gogan. So I like it. You do have to be careful, because if they're like, alright, no blocks, or they block with non-attack actions, and the turn's over. So keep that in mind. This card is particularly great in the late game when they are starting to have to block, and most attack actions block for 3, so you tend to want to block with those. So this card is super good in the late game. If you're able to kind of pitch it and get into that point, even the blues and yellows can be good because, again, go again. So the late game, I think this card is really good. I really actually kind of like it more in blue and yellow than I do in red. So that's where I would draft it. I don't think it's going to see any constructed play. Then we got Hold'em here. This one's the same deal. 1 for 3, but you can wager for a vigor instead of an agility. Yeah, I still like it. I don't think it's going to see constructed play at all, where the other one actually might. This one I don't think, but in limited, I still think this is a really good card because you can make sure you win that vigor token. So I'm not going to put it as high as the agility one, but I will put it actually fairly high because I just feel like you can, kind of defy the odds and, make it in your favor. And then Goblet of Blood Run Wine, creating the agility and vigor token. Yeah, not bad. Gets you an agility token, gets you a vigor token. Only blocks for 2. Has go again. It's okay. I think it's okay, honestly. Like, I think it's fine if you draft it. And I don't see it seeing constructed play. Okay. And then we have our Centauri Swordsman. Okay, so let's go to the hybrid cards now. Those are all the mono cards that we have. So looking for the Brute Warriors. Flat Trackers, I think, is one of the better equipments in the game, or for heavy hitters, I should say. I think this might be the best of the equipment that you can draft. It is, you know, a hybrid, so that's great. And then being able to destroy to create an agility token, or you can just block one with it, and that's fine too. So I think this card has a lot of utility, and I'm all about it. Runner, you know, 2 for 6 on blocks for 3. I think it's just good value on its own, so you probably will draft it in a fairly decent spot, especially because it's Brute Warrior. You should probably draft it in top 5 for that. But if you can also make it work the agility token, it gets that much better. I don't see this getting played outside of limited, but still pretty good. Clash of Agility. Being able to clash with a hero when you defend with it to get an agility token. Don't like this. I don't like this in limited because, you know, even if you're Olympia, you play more big attack actions. You're going against Brutes or other Olympias or other Guardians that all have big attack actions. The only time this feels better is when you're going against Kasai. So I don't like it in limited. And then I don't see any constructed heroes playing this other than Olympia himself. Take it on the chin, preventing some damage and creating an agility token with it. Okay, I can buy into that. The agility token is really good, so I think I can buy into that. It only blocks 2, but it is an instant speed block 2, so you could use it as like a defense reaction in limited, in constructed. It probably just doesn't say play, to be honest. Run into trouble. If you have an agility token, it deals 1 damage, so it's a way you can deal some non-arcane, non-physical damage, and that's pretty good. But it's a block card that pitches for red, so with that, it lost me, I think. Test Agility, a block card that pitches for 4. You get to create a agility token with a clash. Again, who you're winning the clashes with, no one's guaranteed, other than maybe Kasai. And then in constructed, you generally don't play attack actions with the exception of Bolton. And I don't think you play this in Bolton. Maybe you do. Maybe if you're going full on combo, you do. Otherwise, I think you maybe would only play this in Olympia if Olympia is a thing. All right, Agile Windup. This card's going to see constructed play because this card, plain and simple, the red and yellows are poppers. That means warriors like Dorinthia and Kasai can play this and feel good about it because they'll have a popper for the prisms and for the Dromides out there. On top of that, if you want to use this ability to get an agility token, hey, okay, that's pretty damn good. That's obviously totally fine. Discarding it to create an agility token to give your next turn go again. Whew, super good. For those reasons in draft, I would hold them high all the same. If they're going to be good and constructed, most of the times they're also good in draft. There's a few exceptions, but yeah. That's super good. Rising Speed, if you draw a card, it gets go again. This feels like both warriors can really take advantage of this. Both warriors create gold, and so because of that, there's a lot of chances for your cards to have go again, or for this card to have go again by just drawing off the gold. And for those reasons, I'm all about this. You know, it's a 2 for 5. It's a little bit below rate, but it's go again, so that's pretty on rate. That's pretty high actually. So we like it for that. So that was Rising Speed. So I would draft that fairly high. I don't think this is any sort of play in Warriors constructed decks. Wage Agility. This being a 3 for 7, it has a breaker point that's hard to block. We like that. We'll take that. Waging an agility token. Again, here with Warriors, you have a ton of attack reactions, so I'm okay with waging. On top of that, Olympia loves to wage. So this is just such a solid card. These cards are my top 5 cards for sure, just because of their hybrid nature and what they are able to do. Now, I like this more in Warrior than I do at Brute. I should mention that. But in Constructed, this is really just an Olympia deck. Or going to be an Olympia style deck. Lead with Speed, giving an Agility token and a plus. It is an action, but that is fine. This feels more, because it costs 1, feels more like it does work better with swords. So I would say this more leans towards Kasai than Olympia. Doesn't mean Olympia won't play it and shouldn't play it. But that's just kind of where I'm at with it. It seems like it would fit more synergistically with swords. With that said, I think this is a very solid card. I would draft this fairly high. Not super high, but in a good range. And I don't think this is going to see any constructed play for Warrior. I just don't think you'll see constructed play for Warrior. I might be wrong on that. Okay, so those are all the Brute Warriors. Now we go into the Guardian Warriors. We got Vigor Girth. Being able to destroy this, create a Vigor token. Not as good as the sandals, or the trackers, but it's probably just a block 1. But it's okay. That's okay. That's always good. Double down, being cheaper if you have a gold. Both these warriors can make gold. And then the next attack that wagers gets +3 and overpower. So that really says Olympia, other than more than Kasai. And so I think this is more of an Olympia card, and I think I'm more drafting this if I already have chosen to be Olympia. I could see playing this in an Olympia deck in Constructed. That would be it. Clash of Vigor, clashing to get a Vigor token. Hard to win clashes in Limited. Hard to win clashes in Constructed, with the exception of Olympia. Slap Happy, being able to prevent 2 damage and then creating a Vigor token. That Vigor token kind of pays for the Slap Happy. So with that, I'm kind of okay with that. It's actually a little bit of a net positive when you're talking about blocking arcane damage that you couldn't block anyways. So I am kind of okay with that. And yeah, that's just where it's at. That's for Constructed. It probably still doesn't get played Constructed. I should say that. It probably still does it. In Limited, it could be used as a D-React. It's probably very maybe not the last picks, but it's 12 to 14 on the picks. Hardy Block. Don't like block cards that pitch for red. I just don't. And that one just doesn't do enough for me to like it. I don't think I like it in Limited or Constructed. Test of Vigor. This one at least blocks 4. If you're going for a Guardian or if you're gonna go for the Axe build, this wouldn't win the clash, but it would be a block 4. Maybe that's what you're okay with. Yeah. But the winner does create a Vigor token, so I don't know. Rising Energy, if you draw a card this turn, this costs 1 less play, so it could be a 1 for 6. That's really, really good, especially if you just the most ideal scenario is you only have 1 card, it's a blue, you decide to draw use it to draw a card, and you only have 1 resource left, and you draw this Rising Energy. It's whoo, that is a dream, I suppose. But still, a 1 for 6 is pretty good, especially with how many agility tokens warriors can get. So you can probably have this be coming at the end. I think this card is really high in draft value. At the very least, it's 2 for 6. It does only block for 2, but 2 for 6 isn't the worst. So I actually really like Rising Energy, and I'm drafting that pretty high. Next up, we have Vigorous Windup. Cool art. One that you can discard to get a Vigor token. It's not the agility one, so I'm just not as huge into it. It's very hard to justify discarding a whole attack just to get 1 resource, but yeah. Wage Vigor is, where we're waging. I love to wage with warriors, with how many attack reactions there are. So Wage Vigor, I'm drafting very high because it meets so many criterias. And then finally, we have Lead with Heart, a way to just pump the warrior attack and then give +3 Again, this feels more like a sword or a sword pump than it does anything else, but you can use it for whatever. I don't think to see any sort of constructed play, but in limited, not bad. I think I'd draft this kind of mid to late round, or mid to late picks. All right, those were all the warrior cards for heavy hitters. We have done the brutes, we have done the guardians, we got the generics, and then we have everything else like the expansion slots. So if you're interested, check out those videos and get to theory crafting out there. There's a lot of cool things to work with these warriors. So until then, guys, keep on fabbing. I'll catch you on the next one.